With a new craft beer on the market every other month, we decided to take a look at one of Ireland's oldest brewing companies, the Porterhouse Company. Okay, sick. Is it centered?
No, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
The guys started the company, Porterhouse Brewing Company, in 1996, but previously the guys had been running a bar since 1989 and had tried their own brewery back in 1983 called Harty's Brewery. So that was kind of their first step into the craft brewing game, which operated for a couple of years and then closed down. I suppose their inspiration from that came from the fact that both of them at the time were living in London prior to 1983. There was a chain of pubs called the Firkin pubs, which are, I suppose, brew pubs, I suppose, in what we call them now, where they started brewing 9 different beers at the time. First brew pub in Dublin, and one of the kind of origination of the, I suppose, new beer phenomenon that's kind of gone on now for the last 20-25 years. The premise was that we weren't selling multinational beers, we weren't selling Guinness or Heineken or Budweiser when it was kind of bigger at the time. So I suppose a lot of the beers that we brewed, we wanted to give something, I suppose, similar but better. You know, there's a lot of breweries at the moment. There's something like 90 odd different brands and 70 odd different breweries, which I think could be slightly excessive. I think there's a huge push on local, which is kind of really encouraging to see that people down in West Kerry or people down in Cork or people in Waterford are drinking beers that are brewed in their local brewery, as opposed to just focusing on kind of multinational beers. You see the word session beer or table beer kind of mentioned an awful lot now, which is just to encourage people to be drinking 3.5 to 4.5, 5% beers. So I think that's something that's really going to grow and grow and grow. Low ABV beers are going to grow with different brews on Drink Drive, and people are more health conscious as well. People don't want to drink as much, and people are drinking less now than they've ever done. We want to build up a local belief in our beer before we kind of go further and further out.
If I was a winemaker, I wouldn't create alcohol. If I was a distiller, I wouldn't create alcohol. If I was a cider maker, I wouldn't create alcohol. As a brewer, it's my job to create the environment in which yeast can create alcohol. It's really the most underappreciated staff member here is their poor little yeast cell. We create the environment, we create a sugar-rich, nutrient-rich environment for the yeast to ferment, to convert sugars into alcohol, carbon dioxides, and a plethora of other molecules, amino acids, things like that.
Yeah.
That's the science of it, which we call magic, so we don't have to explain it. Predominantly, there's very few preservatives in our beer. We go out of our way with different techniques, particularly here in the new brewery. We've been able to undertake so it's sterile filtration, which I might talk about later on. But realistically, we extract the sugar from the grain at this stage into a water solution. That water solution is then referred to as a wort in brewing. I know distilleries call it a wash. I'm sure it's an unfermented sugar solution that will go on to become, for us, will go on to become a beer. It moves on to the second vessels, which are behind you, which where we sterilise it. It's a very nutrient-rich liquid. We want the yeast to use that nutrients to ferment, to create alcohol. We don't want anything else necessarily falling in there and working away in it. So the vessel behind you is the copper. It's our copper kettle. It's what we use to sterilise the wort. We want a high turnover of our product. We really don't want our beer sitting around for months upon months before being used. We'd much rather the beer was drunk quickly and more, turnover would be, we'd like a high turnover of our kegs. And we were also very confident that the turnover in our own bars would be so great that we could offer the customer the freshest beer possible, with very little in the way between sort of the beers that should be made and their glass. It was a big part of what made the Porterhouse special.